Miss me?
A few hours ago, I would have driven us both into a wall if there was a chance it would kill you.
Why'd they change your heart?
None of this is real.
There's very few racing games that I'll play through to completion more than once. I mean, for me, it's pretty much just Burnout Paradise and Driver San Francisco. Today, we're going to be talking about Driver San Francisco, an underrated, super weird hidden gem from Ubisoft Reflections, the team that made Stuntman, Destruction Derby, Grow Up, and Grow Home, and the original Driver games. The original Driver games were mission-based driving games with a big emphasis on gritty atmosphere shown through a detective story starring John Tanner. They were hugely ambitious, high-budget gems on the PS1 and PS2, spanning 4 games that eventually morphed into a series so large that it was competing with Grand Theft Auto at the time. After over 5 years in development, Driver San Francisco is the 5th game in the series and is an extremely different game from the originals, and any other video game I've played, racing or otherwise, really. The ability to get out of your car was removed here, but it was replaced with Tanner's superpowers, which the game calls Shift, which unlock as the game progresses. He can use nitrous in any vehicle, bash into cars by slamming into them, eventually throw vehicles at enemies for a mission or two. But the main power is to shift his consciousness into the drivers of any person driving a vehicle on the road, while his body runs entirely on instinct, continuing to race or compete in the absolutely absurd number of creative car-based events that this game has. The vehicles are all based on real-life licensed vehicles as well, which is extremely rare for any open-world game to have, other than maybe the Getaway back on the PS2. Here, they all handle with an arcadey feel and a dose of weighty realism. You can double tap the handbrake, you can counter steer realistically. The vehicles handle in a, well, very Burnout Paradise kind of way. Also, like Burnout Paradise, there's no GPS, so you gotta learn to adapt quickly by spotting shortcuts, side roads, and turns. The handling is obviously extremely important in a driving game like this, and thankfully you have complete and utter control of every single vehicle that you find yourself driving, no matter what speed you're going. They all act and feel differently depending on their shape, size, and what terrain you're driving on, but none of them feel wrong. So every time you mess up a corner and hit a wall, you never feel like it's the game's fault. There's a lot of times throughout the game, usually referencing car chases of classic films, where you have to race without the shift ability, so it's nice that the driving is so solid throughout. There's also quite a lot of times where the game puts you in off-road sections with no other vehicles to shift into, or puts a large divider in the middle of the road so it's pointless to take over the oncoming traffic. It's important that the driving feels good, and it feels really good. Even the races in dirt feel good, with controls that feel on par with dirt. The shift ability is used throughout most of the entire game though, and it completely changes this from a racing game to something else entirely. It's your choice how you complete, say, a race. Do you want to drive carefully and quickly to get to first place, or do you want to shift your consciousness into the oncoming vehicles to fling cars directly into your opponents and take them out, one by one? Maybe you want to race normally, that's fine, but you can still use the shift mechanic strategically to mess with other racers by jumping into something like a truck, and then creating a roadblock or crashing into them all. Maybe you want to shift into the vehicle in front of the guy in first place and hit the brakes to slow them down. Maybe you want to shift into a vehicle behind the person in first place and use Tanner's ram ability to do a Burnout-style takedown on them. The options are limitless, and that's just the races. In the story, which is one of the best parts of this game that we'll get to, but Tanner's a police officer. Sometimes you'll be in a police car chasing opponents, sometimes you'll be tailing them with a phone tap to listen into conversations, sometimes you'll be shutting down street races, or maybe you'll be participating in street races, or you'll be driving a passenger who's terrified of being seen, so he forces you to drive on back roads, or you'll be completing an event where you smash objects on the road, or driving underneath trucks to disarm bombs, or performing stunts for a movie as a cool throwback to Stuntman. That's just some of the events in this game. It's never repetitive, always fun, and always throwing new challenges and weird changes at you throughout the entire thing. Another absolutely amazing thing about these events is that a ton of them have their own sub-stories to go along with them, including recurring characters that often tie in with the main plot as well. Tanner jumps into these people's bodies, usually while they're mid-conversation, and then just rolls with the situation. It's always really fun to watch him struggle to piece together what situation he's in now, and it's all really cleverly written. Even random cars on the streets that have nothing to do with you will result in a conversation with the passenger if there's one in the vehicle. With over 150 distinct characters, this game actually has more lines of dialogue in it than Mass Effect 2. One example of the cool story-based side missions is these two guys. They keep participating in races with cash prizes even though they have no idea how to race. Tanner ends up taking over the consciousness of the driver who has his brother as a passenger. At first, they want money to pay for college, but eventually the story continues and it becomes more about the money, and they start racing different events. Eventually, ending up racing in events that are being put on by Jericho, the main villain of the story, which is where it then ties in with the main plot. There's an absolutely crazy number of these side missions in the game with subplots all involving a ton of recurring characters and an impressive amount of really legitimately funny and well-acted dialogue between all the characters that happens before, after, and during each mission. They're all oozing creativity and I found myself just having the best time playing through all of these. They're all completely solid driving missions that switch things up enough that they're never repetitive, and since they all have their own little mini stories to go along with them, they're not annoying in any way. You can tell the developers here were just giving this game everything they had and having fun with every little detail. Look how insanely good this replay editor is. You can rearrange clips, change camera angles to whatever you want, use effects like slow motion, upload it, save clip. It's so good. It's really sweet. The story missions are just as good as everything else, obviously, and they'll give you some context as to why Tanner has this superpower and what's going on with Jericho. I'm not going to spoil the whole game, by the way, but the game opens up with an introduction to Jericho, a drug trafficking kingpin that's in prison for killing over 17 police officers. Tanner is, of course, the guy who caught him. Of course, Jericho's planning a prison break, and it works, leaving Tanner to chase him and try to lock him up again. After the car chase, you're led into this alleyway where Jericho is just behind you. So he rams Tanner off the road and directly into oncoming traffic, and then a truck just smashes into his vehicle. So this whole game takes place in Tanner's head while his real physical body is in the hospital, in a coma. In the real world, there's a TV that's playing the news in the hospital room, constantly reporting on Jericho, which influences Tanner's thoughts while he's in the coma and helps him to solve the case in the real world later. Experiencing all of Tanner's thoughts, piecing together the case based on his own memories as well as the news reports, it's such a cool frame for storytelling, and the detective story on display here gets you hooked extremely quickly. Throughout the game, Tanner will get messages that he's in a coma, basically, as his friends try to wake him up. Gameplay ties in with these moments. You'll see billboards that are quoting people talking to Tanner in the hospital. You'll hear the cries of your friends and family playing through the radio of the car.
John?
Yeah, what happened to our call sign?
Everything's gonna be all right. You're gonna make it.
Yeah. We'll be there in about 30 seconds.
A ton of themes around Tanner's heart rate increasing and decreasing. You'll hear the sounds of the hospital room get closer and closer as you zoom the map screen out further and further, and just a ton of reminders that the entire game takes place inside of his head. He doesn't know that in the game. The story missions use the coma concept in the coolest ways imaginable too. The first half uses the abilities to let us have fun and crash cars in cool ways, disarming bombs, and do all the other creative concepts that the developers came up with that we've kind of already talked about a lot of. But about halfway through this game, Tanner starts to question his sanity, whether any of this is real, and begins to realize that he's in a coma. From there, the game just goes crazy. The craziness really starts here, at this mission, and if you've heard of this game, you've most likely seen this mission. In it, Tanner questions the motives of the villain and ends up getting in an argument with his partner about why Jericho is ordering a massive amount of chemicals that could cover multiple blocks of the city. We later find out, you can see it on the screen, I'm not going to tell you what it is though. The argument with his partner that's taking place in his head, the inability to solve what the chemicals are being used for, and what to do to stop it, all this piles up, and in the real world,
Jones?
it puts him into cardiac arrest. And just like that, time freezes. The entire city freezes, other than this ambulance. Tanner needs to follow the ambulance to lower his heart rate, and going outside of the trails that the ambulance leaves behind causes his body temperature to get colder, his heart rate to increase, and his body closer to death. Following this ambulance is kinda hard with none of the cars moving. It completely changes the way you drive a vehicle in the game, and things just get even cooler from this point onward, with Jericho having the ability to take over other drivers' consciousness and... Ah man, check this out. One more. Here, you're talking to this girl, a criminal named Layla, trying to figure out who Jericho's got a hit on. A yellow Dodge. So the target is you.
What? That's the cop that's been getting in our way.
Do we follow him to the target?
He is the target.
So this mission is then played in a second-person view while you look through the eyes of the driver hunting yourself. It's all so weird and awesome.
Detective. If you're here, who's in your body?
Well, no one. Oh, God. You mean... Jericho.
Sit back and enjoy the show. Not many people get to watch themselves die.
I'm tempted to spoil it all for you, but what if I just gave you the means to go play it? It's honestly the best racing game story you could possibly get, and it's really a shame that this flew under so many people's radars. It's extremely easy to play Driver San Francisco. Well, on a console you need to find a physical copy, sure, but on PC, look, there's no legal way to buy Driver San Francisco anymore. It's been pulled from all digital storefronts, and even key reselling sites don't typically have any keys, and if they do, well... So on that note, this is abandonware, and it's been archived for everybody to download. You'll have to Google it, sorry, but just download the zip file from archive.org, extract it, and play the game. If you have any issues, just right-click the exe, go to compatibility, and run it in Windows 7 compatibility mode. It just kind of works. The PC version was generally considered to be the worst version, but with a couple mods, you can actually exceed the consoles quite a lot. You can just drag and drop the mods too, they're really easy. The most important one is post-process re-enabled, but there's some other graphical mods you can mess with as well. You don't need any of this though. The game runs smooth at any resolution without doing a thing. Oh, and the archive.org file includes patches to unlock all the DLC, as well as an incomplete mission from an old Xbox 360 build of the game too. Super cool stuff. The game did have an online multiplayer mode too that was active amazingly until its death in September 2022. And it included the shift mechanic in multiplayer. In races, you could do the exact same thing that you can do in single player, using oncoming traffic to crash into players who are in the lead. So if you were in first place, you were kind of always on edge, wondering if the traffic around you is going to start swerving into you. Then there were other modes too, like a lot of modes, 19 of them in total, like Takedown, where one person's a getaway driver and every other player has to try to destroy him, the getaway driver then dealing with a ton of cars just flying at him from everywhere. Or 2 versus 2 matches where one player controls 2 cars each, in a 1v1 match, shifting between the cars. It had modes with Mario Kart style pickups, shiftless standard racing modes, team-based modes like Capture the Flag and Blitz. It was insanely good. Look, go play Driver San Francisco. It's really the takeaway from this video. I'm still only getting maybe a couple of hundred views per video, which is absolutely amazing, honestly, but if you want to help out a lot, feel free to hit the like button and all those things. It's really, truly appreciated. Till next time, though. Love you guys. Peace.
All right, come on. Come on, John. Wake up. Oh, wake up. Wake up, God damn it. God damn